And boom goes the dynamite.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of Daily Dive. I'm your host, Renee Washington, and we've got so much to get into around the 8 games that happened this past weekend. Lots of excitement, some ups, some downs, some in-betweens, and so we've got to get into our top story presented by the Daily Dive store. You can check out all of our merchandise for our Daily Dive gear at the link in our social media bios. So with that, I'd like to welcome in producer Mike, because as we get ready to talk about the good, bad, and the ugly, well, I don't know if I'm going to call it ugly, but the Georgia Swarm are 0-5, still winless. They dropped a 13-10 loss to the Colorado Mammoth. It was tied 9-9 at one point with just under 9 minutes remaining in the game. We saw in that game the return of Dylan Ward between the pipes. And now with the loss, the Swarm remain the only winless team in the NLL. And with a tough schedule ahead, facing Toronto twice, facing Albany. We've talked about this before, Mike. Are we going to see the Georgia Swarm get a win in any week, in the next couple of weeks, I should say?
As far as this game, I don't want to do the moral victory here thing, Renee, but 9-9 isn't bad against the defending champs, although they've been up and down this year. But like you said, their next three are it's a very good rock team in Albany. So my thing is the consistent schedule going to help? And I'm going to say no, because I've seen this team for 2 or 3 years now. Over 2 years I've watched them with Lyle Thompson as the face and center. It's not happening. So I don't know what needs to change. I think a goalie would be nice. If you could somehow pry Frank Giuliano away from the Seals, that'd be fantastic. But there's so much more issues here. I think their coach needs to go. I think a lot needs to happen very soon. Because it'd be one thing if this was oh, wow, we're 0-5, how this happened. It's oh, we're 0-5, we stink again. Wow. Not surprising. There's a difference between those two.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, 0-5, it's still relatively early in the season, but it's not. To at this point still be looking for that first win. I agree. There's some moral victories. I mean, you can look at their schedule. They've had a number of weeks where they haven't had a game. So it's you get a routine going and you don't play, then play again. You can also look at the fact that they have had some close results in their losses. 13-10 is not a blowout. But on the other hand, there's a lot that absolutely needs to change. And that's the discouraging part. This is not a simple fix. It never is, by the way. But it's not a simple fix of moving one or two pieces. There's some major overhauls needed for the Georgia Swarm to be able to get back to, let's say, win a game and then also be competitive in the NLL. And by competitive, I mean winning games consistently, being in the mix. Right now, being the winless team, it's tough when opponents face them, and it's a kind of a guaranteed dub at this point. So I honestly, we said it before, could see them being 0-7, especially playing the Rock back-to-back. And Albany's been up and down. That could be the game, but we'll talk about the Firewolves a little bit later. So we'll see if the Swarm are going to get a win in this next trio of games, and keep an eye on that. Well, on the other side, after dropping a loss last week, the Nighthawks drop another loss. The Buffalo Bandits get redemption, defeating the Nighthawks again, 13-10, another 13-10 score. And the incredible thing about this is the fact that no Josh Byrne, no problem. Dane Smith stepped up, 4 goals, 6 assists. He now has 72 points on the season. And the new team in the East, top team in the East, the Buffalo Bandits, come away with the win. Matt Vince with a big 47-save performance. And we saw the Nighthawks up 5-1 at one point. The Bandits crawled out of that hole and were able to make a big second half play to be able to come away with this win. Were you surprised at all by this result, Mike?
Yes, because when we talked to the Buffalo Sports Collective's PK, there was optimism after seeing Josh Byrne walking after the game last week, and then this week doesn't even play. And so you're wow, the Nighthawks can get back on the schneid. They can even the series up, keep their first place. They just don't have a goal scorer. I know there's guys on the team, but you need – PK talked about it. Rochester needs that one guy, and Dane Smith is the one guy. He's a defending MVP, defending MVP. Easy to say that, But it's like you don't need an MVP. You just need a guy who's going to go and get you a goal, and they just don't have that. By committee works so many times. Even though the Toronto Raptors needed a Kawhi Leonard, needed
Yeah.
somebody with their own shot, and that matters.
Yeah, you are. You're making some really great points there, Mike. We've been talking about how Rochester is winning by committee. It's a team effort. They don't have the guy. They don't have the superstar. And so we've seen at times teams try to lock in on 1 and 2 and somebody else step up, whether it's a Holden Tony or whoever it is. But at the end of the day, when you get into the big moments, we're talking postseason, definitely championships, you need the guy that you can lean on that's going to be able to make the big play. And so with this loss to the Bandits last week, I don't know. I feel like it was just time. They ran out of steam. But this week you definitely can see that in a game against the Bandits where they had the lead. They were in the driver's seat. They drop off. Who's going to step up and right the ship and settle them back in so they can get this win? But as you mentioned, the the Bandits without Josh Byrne kept on moving. That's a big win without Josh Byrne. Says a lot about the Bandits' talent. We know they have depth. We know they've got other players like Dehoga and pieces around Dane Smith and Josh that without Josh, they can step up and fill that void. So big win for the Bandits in that one. Well, another team that got a big win because it went down to overtime and was a 1-goal game. The Roughnecks defeated the Thunderbirds 12-11. Two teams, middle of the pack. Right now, Calgary sitting at just over 500 at 4-3 on the season. Halifax at 500 at 4-4. Calgary was trailing in the third quarter, down by 4. Came back. That's their second straight overtime game. We saw them lose to the Rock in overtime last week. This time, fixed things. Won in overtime, knocked off the Thunderbirds, and Christian Del Bianco, Mike, continues to just stand on his head. 54 saves in the game. Wow, what a game that was.
I'm glad you didn't say Cardiac Calgary because now I can say it. Cardiac Calgary, maybe.
I'll let you have that moment.
Right. How about last week? So with the Rock, the game that you mentioned, Calgary came back. They were never out of it, but they came back, tied it late. And in overtime, they lost like 10 seconds in overtime. This week, Jeff Cornwall says bump that. But I think the numbers, 54 saves is pretty I haven't seen that number yet this year. Maybe I'm wrong, but 54 is up there. Like that is one of the time. Like 50 is good, but when you get the extra 4, it's like icing on the cake. They're peppering you all game long. You say none of that. Not in my house, says Dikembe Mutombo. Not in my house, says Christian Del Bianco. So there you go.
Well, I love that recap. That's got me fired up, Mike. That was beautiful. Look, we saw that game as you talked about. Dan Taylor ties it up with just 18 seconds left in regulation, his 5th goal of the season. Then, as you mentioned, Jeff Cornwall says, not today. We're going to get this win. Gets his 2nd goal of the game, 9 seconds into overtime. You talk about making that quick adjustment from last week to this week. You lose in overtime in the early seconds of overtime period, and this time you win it. And you know what? These types of games give you so much confidence. They really bring your team together. It helps you figure out your character and identity of your team. To have players, as we were just talking about with Rochester have players that step up in big moments. Christian Del Bianco between the pipes, Jeff Cornwall, Dan Taylor getting goals and helping you win games. So Calgary, what a way to respond.
And by the way, Halifax, I know like this story is going to be, after the third quarter, a 3:29 mark, they don't score, and that looks bad. But this team had 4 guys with 30 or more points coming into this game.
Yeah.
This is all about Calgary's defense, hands down. Like, that does not happen by accident. That does not happen because, we're not good enough, we're inconsistent. That's a dang good offensive team. And Del Bianco was standing upside down when he needed to. That deserves a lot of credit. Calgary's team defense deserves a ton of credit for that right there.
Woo! Cue the audience applause. Look, to hold anybody scoreless is a feat, especially when you do it for an entire quarter and you come back, your defense locks down, locked and loaded, and you were able to keep them scoreless. So it's been an incredible weekend of games, and we have more to get into here. We're not done yet. And so we've got more game recaps to discuss here on Daily Dive in just a moment after this break. Stay tuned. Daily Dive. I'm Renee Washington. Producer Mike and I have been talking about the games from this past weekend. First, looking at the overtime victory the Roughnecks had over the Thunderbirds, and also the 3-goal wins by the Bandits and by the Mammoth. Well, time to get into some more game action. This segment presented by Fanatics. Be sure to check out the link in our social media bio to see all that's there on Fanatics. So we had a lot going on, some down-to-the-wire games and some not as close games. Looking at the Toronto Rock, who have, ever since Nick Rose has been on the show, I'm not going to say it was us, Producer Mike, but the Daily Dive good luck charm continues, because ever since Nick Rose has been on the show, the Toronto Rock have been trailing upwards. The Rock knock off the Riptide again, 22-14. They advanced to 6-2 on the season. If you were paying attention in the last segment, there's a number of teams in that 6-2, 7-2 block. So the Toronto Rock, with this win, move into that conversation as being a top team in the conference and also in the league. We saw Jeff Teague, who has been playing much better ever since you demanded more from him, Mike. You raised the bar. He had 4 goals, 6 assists in the game. Now 54 points this season, still at the top of the league in points, which is wild, especially after a couple of games of a slump. Tom Schreiber, 3 goals, 11 assists. 11. Tom Schreiber was involved with over half of the Rock's goals, which is phenomenal. 55 points this season, and we saw the Rock with 60 shots on goal. Talk about a peppering. 60 shots on goal to the Riptide's 39, and Nick Rose only had to make 23 saves. Woo-wee! What a way to win that one. Does this now, in your opinion, solidify the Toronto Rock in what we've seen these last couple weeks as a top team in the league?
Yes and no. I want to use this moment to give another classic New York Riptide Mike rant, because I think it needs to be said. I think it's pretty pathetic, okay? Nick Rose, Rosie, the one who's almost doubled the next guy in GSAA of all goalies, that stat by Ty Merrow, which shows how good they actually are, had to make 23 more saves than me and Renee did combined this weekend. 54 does not happen, but you mean to tell me Riptide can only get off 39 shots on goal? You mean to tell me Jeff Teague, I believe, was the only person with more than 2 points? At what point do the Riptide care about performance? At what point is it like we have this guy who might not ever be seen in lacrosse again, just natural gift from God? And when are we going to see this guy be rewarded for now stepping up and absolutely nothing? Their defense is absolutely sickening and atrocious. The fact that you allowed 22 goals and the fact that you can only get off 39 shots on goal. Bro, how do you wake up and look at yourselves in the mirror? I know a lot of these guys work like 9 to 5s. You got to be feeling miserable right now, because this is pathetic. I'll say it right now. I thought getting rid of Callum Crawford, might kind of open up T. It did. It might be time for the coach to go. I don't know what else to say. Dan Lattisaur, I'm sorry. I interviewed you a while ago. I am so sorry. Something ain't happening right in this organization. That is 23 saves from Nick Rose. That's almost like, oh, cool, this is easy. I just got to do this all day? Come on, little this, little that, and that's it? Come on, man. That can never happen again.
Ding, 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 ding.
Right.
Knockout. Mike came with the heat today. Wow. Held no punches. I've got nothing to say. I do have something to say. I'm just kidding. But Jeff T, as you talked about, and we've said here on the show, we were asking for more from him. Ranked as the top player in the league coming into the season, had a little bit of a slump. They make some moves. They moved Callum Crawford. We saw him immediately the next game step up. Back to scoring goals, back to getting assists, back to being a top producer in the league. So now you wonder, exactly as you mentioned, if you are the Riptide, you see the way that Jeff T is playing. We talked about Tom Schreiber being involved in over half. Well, Jeff T was involved with 10 of the 14 goals that the Riptide had in that loss against the Rock. He is literally putting the team on his back now, and you have to wonder, When are you going to see some major changes to put pieces around him? Because as we know in sports, there are many players that we can look across every league and over the years that have been the best to never win a championship. And it's more than just championships. This team is not even a playoff team at this point. So there is a need in New York to put some pieces around the Riptide. Take a page out of what the Liberty just did in the WNBA. They built around Sabrina Ionescu. They brought in John Paul Jones. They brought in Brianna Stewart. They brought in Courtney Vandersloot. They found a way to put pieces to now have the Liberty absolutely in WNBA championship conversation. The Riptide need to make some changes because this Seafoam team is not it right now.
And I'll ask something else because you said that. Yeah, because the Liberty are like looking at what the Aces did by adding Candace Parker. Yeah, CP is not who she was, but it's like we're not just gonna let them do that when we got this chick. The Riptide are sitting there watching what the Seals are doing, watching the Mammoth sign Reese Dutch. We're good. Let's get rid of Callum Crawford. Well, okay, at this point, why? At this point, that looks stupid because he had 7 points in his first game, and they almost beat the Seals. So why did you dump him? Now I look back at it. Good Lord.
Things that make you go, Well, we have to keep an eye on the Riptide because everybody around them is making changes. There are a few teams that are like a deer in the headlights right now, not pulling the trigger on making some changes, and the Riptide are leading that pack because there's a need for some changes in New York and not just with the Liberty. Riptide, it's time. If you were waiting for a sign, this is it. Make a move, change up this roster, maybe make a change in the coaching staff, but something's got to give to be able to have a better product and supporting cast around Jeff Teague. Mic drop. All right, well, the Wings are a team that did make some changes, and we saw it play off pretty well, to say the least, as they, look at that. You bring in some key players, you win more games. The Philadelphia Wings knocked off the Firewolves 13-5, guys. 13-5. Albany's been a team we've been speaking pretty well on. Now they dropped to 2-4 on the season. The Wings they won 18 of 22 faceoffs. Trevor Baptiste, who's been having a career season so far. And then also we had Sam LeClaire, friend of the show, who finished with 2 goals and an assist. The Daily Dive good luck charm continues. Philly had multiple players that were able to chip in. Mitch Jones being one of them. 2 goals, 3 assists in his debut with the Wings. That's how you make moves. That's how you improve your roster. That's how you get things done. Wow.
It's funny because like the Wings were 1-4 before this game, or no, they were 2-4, and that wasn't good enough for them. It's funny how that works out. Just take Mitch Jones while he's available. Hey, New York, you could have done that. Oh well. As for the Sam LeClaire stat, apparently to start his career with the Mammoth, he had 2 hat tricks. It has not played 10 plus games since then. It hadn't scored multiple goals with the Wings until he joined the show 2 games later. What do you know? Renee called it like she saw it with her glasses on. You can hold these for a minute. No, but I am very happy the Wings are looking good because when the Phillies made the World Series, when the Eagles made the Super Bowl, you know what? The Wings are like, hey, the city's hungry right now for more sports wins. The Sixers look good. James Harden looks great. We're gonna add Mitch Jones. How's that look?
It's a Philly thing. That's all I can say. It's a great time to be a Philly sports fan here. Philly sports are winning, literally, in all leagues. And the Wings are now part of that because at one point, a few weeks ago, people were buying tickets to the Wings game just to be able to tailgate for the Eagles-Giants game. People are now buying tickets for the Wings game to watch them win and get dubs. And it's definitely a Daily Dive good luck charm. Sam LeClaire, as you talk about, with that multiple goal game. Well, next up, Albany's got a schedule that should allow them to take that 2-4 record and get over 500. They play the Riptide. They play the Desert Dogs. They play Georgia. They have 3 teams that they're facing with, between them, 2 wins, 3 wins.
Renee, the reason I put this on the docket, I am wondering, I don't want to be negative Mike Nancy this morning, but I am wondering if this is the next team we start raising our left eyebrows at, like a little bit of, hey, look at the league and Everyone else is improving besides, the Riptide, who at least have a generational talent, and the Firewolves, who don't even have a great uniform at this point. I mean, I'm just saying, at least a swarm of Lyle Thompson. The Riptide have Jeff Teat, and the Firewolves are not even winning like the Nighthawks are. So it's not good. I hope they can get it right. They look good to start the season, remember? Albany looked okay. I think they're like 2-0. And then we were kind of like, hey, they look surprising, and now they don't. So we'll see.
They looked good until they didn't. So Albany with a chance between the Riptide, who have 1 win, the Desert Dogs, who now have 2 wins. We'll talk about that in a moment, and the Georgia Storm, who are still winless. This is the test. These are the bottom teams in the league right now. How do you stack up against them? Will you win or will you not win? So we've got to get into those Desert Dogs and talk about their game this past weekend as well before we get into our 3 stars of the weekend here on Daily Dive. So stay tuned. We've got more coming your way after this break. Welcome back to Daily Dive. I'm your host, Renee Washington, and we've been diving into all the action from this past weekend. What a weekend it was. A lot of close games, some not so close games. And now let's get into our final game. And this is our last segment, last brew of the show, presented by B-Res Coffee Company, because we've got to share our 3 stars of the weekend, but also talk about another team with a pair of wins. There's a solid group of teams in that 2-win space. And the Desert Dogs have now joined it. Welcome to the conversation, Las Vegas Desert Dogs. Now with 2 wins on the season, you join Albany, who has 2 wins. You join, who else has 2 wins? The Riptide still have 1. Anyways, with 2 wins on the season, the Desert Dogs knocked off the Mammoth. Look, we've been talking a lot about that bottom of the barrel group. Well, the Las Vegas Desert Dogs with a commanding 13-9 victory over the Mammoth. 13 was the lucky number this past weekend. There were a number of games that finished with 13 goals. But in that, we saw Jack Hanna with 6 goals, 3 assists. And now, as I mentioned, the Desert Dogs moved to 2-5 on the season. And the Mammoth, with a surprising loss, dropped to just 4-3. The defending champs with a tough loss to the new team on the block. Mike, this, I'm curious, had to surprise you in some way. What was the biggest surprise, aside from the results, about this game?
The biggest surprise is that Las Vegas won and Dylan Ward played. Like, I'm not saying that Las Vegas couldn't have won before, but going into the weekend, you're like, wow, Dylan Ward is playing. Me and Hutton Jackson on Friday didn't think he was going to play this weekend. And the fact he played and Las Vegas showed the other teams in the league this is how you win multiple games. Listen, can we be real about this? If you want to ask yourself a question like, do the Georgia Swarm need to rebuild? Is 0-5 like bad enough? Is Albany bad at 2-4? Or the Riptide need to do something else? And then you see an expansion franchise has 2 wins, one of which probably doesn't count at this point. The other one is against the Mammoth. And you're like, wow, what is wrong with us? See how the show wraps up in the end? You see how the expansion franchise finds a way to get it done? Yeah, Jack Hanna was berserk, okay? Watching that game, Las Vegas has like an electric guy on their team. Like, it is insane how good that Las Vegas team is playing. But you look around the league, the other bad teams are like, wow, the expansion franchise is dwarfing us right now. That's got to suck.
Yeah, it definitely makes you have to take a double look at what you're doing and what you're not doing. And the punches keep rolling for you, Mike, today. You are coming at these teams. And look, In our defense here on Daily Dive, last time, well, one of the times you've demanded more from somebody, it was Jeff Teat. And Jeff Teat then turned around and has had double-digit point performances ever since for the games ever since you raised the bar for him. We are now raising the bar. This is us. We're coaching. We're coaching the coaches, basically. We're telling you and demanding more from you because the new expansion franchise in the Desert Dogs, who started off as one of our winless teams, gets in the win column and then knocks off the defending champs, which is a huge statement victory. You didn't just beat the Warriors. You beat the Mammoth. And so other teams that are at 1 win, 2 wins, 0 wins, need to be taking notes of how you can also find ways to win games, make changes happen. This team is, although started off slow, they're figuring things out. It's like they've got their feet under them now. They're playing much better. They look much better. They're putting together full games. So if you're the Desert Dogs, hats off to you. Congrats to you for finding ways to win games and to come into your franchise's inaugural season and be competitive. Other teams, take notes.
And expansion franchises, like when they're competitive, they can take the moral victories with them. And they're saying, darn the moral victories. Are we kidding right now? We got 2 wins. You guys got this many. But I will say this, though. Regarding the other teams, the NLL is going to have to realize that starting up in a couple of weeks is the PLL. And this guy, I forgot his name, but the one, he's a lacrosse legend, and he's co-owner of the PLL. He's been on some victory lap tour, went on the Kelly Clarkson show for what that's worth, and said lacrosse season starts to like today or whatever, knowing that the NLL had been going on. Look at what he said. Take it as fuel for your fire, and get better. Because if the dude from the PLL is saying that stuff about some of your players, I would want to get better immediately.
Yes, could not agree more. It is a wake-up call that the NLL needs to step up with some of their teams to be able to have better lacrosse. Honestly, the top teams got it. It's time for that next group to get it as well. Let's take a look at our 3 stars of the weekend. And we were just talking about the Desert Dogs. Well, Jack gets a 6-goal, 3-assist performance. It's Renee, right? I believe. 6-goal, 3-assist performance and lifts the Desert Dogs to their 2nd win in franchise history. Big win for a number of reasons. You knock off the Colorado Mammoth, defending champs. You also get a win over a team that has their pieces. There's no injuries that you can use as excuses. Dylan Ward's between the pipes, and they still get a 13-9 victory over them. Our 2nd star has to go to Dane Smith as the Bandits knock off the Nighthawks to move into that #1 spot in the East. And what makes it even better, that 4-goal, 6-assist performance happens without his counterpart. They're like Batman and Batman. I won't say Batman and Robin. It's like the Avengers more. Dane Smith, without Josh Byrne, they take over the top spot in the East, put the Bandits on the map even more as the top dogs, and are able to hold off the Nighthawks in a redemption victory. And then redemption from losing in overtime. Christian Del Bianco lifted the Roughnecks with a 54-save performance after dropping a loss in overtime last week. They win this week in overtime, just 9 seconds into overtime. And it was Christian Del Bianco's 54 saves that absolutely helped them get that win over Halifax to rally back for an exciting overtime victory. Mike, our 3 stars of the weekend, Dane, Christian, Jack. What are your thoughts before we wrap up here?
If I had to pick a favorite one, it'd be Dane Smith. I just don't see how you go into that game knowing that I have wondered if Josh Byrne is the MVP this year. And the last 3 games for Dane Smith have been absolutely insane. Awesome stuff from Dane Smith. That's my favorite star.
And that's what you love to see. Your best player stepping up in the absence of your other best player and lifting the team, putting the team on their back. Let's go. We got this, and being able to lift their team to the #1 spot in the East. So, wow, a lot of excitement in the past games of this weekend, and more to come here on Daily Dive as we continue to unpack all that's going on around the NLL and all things lacrosse. I'm your host, Renee Washington. That's producer Mike. We've given you our takes and our thoughts. Be sure to drop your comments as well and share with us what you think about what's going on across the NLL. At Daily Dive Lax, you can follow us, you can subscribe, you can keep up with the show as we're bringing you new episodes each and every day, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Daily Dive. Have a great rest of your Monday, guys, and we'll see you back here for more on Tuesday.